Well, just thought we'd start by talking about your latest project. Why was California Gold shelved the way it was, and and why now to resurrect it?
Well, the original group was basically I asked Donald Duck Dunn if he knew of any singers out there because I was looking to put a band together, and he said, "Yes, I do." And it's just Bobby Whitlock, and I said, "That name's familiar." And Derek and the Dominoes, I said, "Yeah, okay. Why don't we check in with him?" So we did, and he was looking to do something as well. And we got together and started out seeing how we could work as a writing team. And that was real easy. And we were pretty prolific in terms of a product that we were putting out or planned to put out. And I said, we better record this stuff or we'll forget it. And that is a truism for writers. You know, if you have an idea, write it down or get up out of bed. If you don't get out of bed when you have one of these, it's gone in the morning. So anyway, we went into several studios and Duck said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I can't do this project. I've been offered a deal with the Blues Brothers, with Aykroyd and Belushi, and of course we said, "Oh, I'll take that and be a movie star." And he's one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet, and so you know that character, and that worked. And then some of the others were looking at other projects as things were changing on our side, and so we just said, well, you know, I'll put this away, and we'll everyone goes their separate direction, and so I had the multi tracks, and I knew that there was good things on that reel, and so I mixed it all down and produced all the various tracks from different studios, and that's what you're listening to when you hear the California Gold. It was time to come out. That was about it last year. I had been putting some things out with the things I did with Steve Wright and some other folks and myself. So, well, there's another one, and this one's probably the best of the lot. So it was time to put it out.
Cool. How long did it take to get all this together, to cobble all the tapes together? You recorded this in several different studios, as you were saying.
Yes. Well, that part was pretty easy because I had to bake the tapes because they were 40 years old, and there's a process for your listeners.
Hmm.
Uh, you bake it at a low temperature, and then you have a short window to get the information from that procedure onto digital tape, and that's what we did. And I got several other things that were put through that process, and all of it came out, and that is amazing. The downside to it is I don't have the multi tracks, so I have two tracks, two track masters, and I was able to through the wisdom of technology and my old buddy Russell DeShiel, we were able to come up with change those two tracks to uh, what we wanted to have as a finished product. And I could tell Russell, I want this, I want that, I want this. And lo and behold, the next day, there it would be. He's really my partner in this, and he's also a really good lead guitar player, and but all the guitars were pretty much already in place, so that's how that went.
Yeah, fascinating. 10 songs that were just resurrected like that. And you co-wrote all of them or some of them with Bobby Whitlock?
All of them. Everything that comes out of my vault, I'm either the writer or co-writer on. That's one of the rules that I have for myself. You know, if you're going to go to the trouble and expense of mixing records, and when I go into a mixing situation, uh, I don't do a half-ass job because it's a demo. That's the one you want to do. So I go in with the guys of making a master, and it's going to be put out, and it's paid off through the years, and that's what's happened here.
Yeah, yeah, and got some good bass on there by Donald Duck Dunn. That's just it's totally prominent throughout your the entire release. Was it always being called California Gold, or did you come up with that title later?
Well, no, that was the name of our band, and then we didn't have internet back then, so it's hard to search things. And somebody somewhere told us too late. They had the name, and so we said, well, if it's yours, it's yours. We'll come up with something else. Well, we didn't come up with something else, so it's thought it would be it has a nice sound to it, California Gold. We were in California at the time, and so we thought, well, why don't we just name the album California Gold, and let people figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, that's just the way to go. It's just always stick with it. Got some great tracks on there. Good times. That's just really I like the gravelly vocals. It's just very soulful. It's amazing to see that this was done in the 70s, and there was a lot of good stuff there under all that popular disco stuff. I mean, there were people doing some really, really good original fascinating stuff. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Doobie Brothers kind of a thing too as well.
Oh, that's a compliment. I'm really close with the Dubes.
Yeah.
They're, of course, a Bay Area band, and John McPhee is one of my best friends anywhere. So, yeah, that's a nice compliment.
Yeah, it just really gets into it. It's a groovy open track and it just takes off from there. It's just amazing that something like that was shelved for more than 4 decades. But is it pretty uncommon in the business to like shelve an entire project like that? You hear about it every now and then.
That's about it. Now, every now and then, no, it's not a common thing to do. Of course, with the baking process, I when I think of baking, I think of brownies, and
Yeah.
when I think of brownies, I think of baking. So,
Yeah, why
uh,
would you do something physically to the tape like that in order to get the performance out of it? That's kind of interesting because we don't really hear about that kind of stuff when they do all these remasters, these big box sets and things like that. So that's a very interesting process.
it certainly is.
Yeah, and then going through the digital processing, was it like something like Pro Tools or something on that level where somebody's just really going through and just sweetening everything? How is that process?
Well, we did use Pro Tools, and we used it for compression. You want compression when you're in the mastering area, and EQ, different frequencies. In other words, if I wanted to get the drums, the snare drum is low on the recording for whatever reason. Was what I did. Uh, that you find that frequency and then you boost that frequency, uh, and that's going to bring the level of the drum up, and then you can put a little compression on it to give it that that sock. The problem with that is that, and everything else that's in that frequency is going to be boosted as well. And that's where the art and science collide. And a guy like Russell understands it and was able to get the maximum amount of everything we did with that particular step.
Mm. Yeah, pure gold. It really is. How is the songwriting process? How does that work when you have a co-writer? Do you come up with certain lines, the co-writer, you just trade off, or you write the whole thing, maybe the co-writer revises it?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Usually in a co-write situation, one individual has something that the other guy doesn't have, and the other guy has something that the other guy doesn't have, and that's the whole point of collaboration. But I won't write with any more than one person. Uh, two is a company, three is a crowd, and you start people start thinking about numbers of lines or words or whatever, and might have a direction they think it should go, and the other guys don't. And the one that always gets me is, well, I've got a whole verse out of these songs, so I should get 75%. Wait a minute, this is art we're dealing with here. There's a way to do it, and the best way to do it is the most expedient way is to get the idea that first comes to your head and heart, and then you develop from there. Things develop. I'm primarily the lyricist because I'm a drummer, so I'm not playing actual chords, and Bobby's got that B3 organ. So usually he would come up with the music, and I would take that music home with me, or if I was writing at home, just say, hold on a minute, this shouldn't take too long, and you gave me a nice piece of music to work with. So that's how it works. But then I have an album called Magic Window, and on that album, I wrote 3 of the songs just by myself. So I can do it, and I'll use the piano for chords. I don't play the piano, but I use it as a tool to put melodies and things together. But I enjoy the process of working with somebody else, one other person who's unselfish and willing to put something out there and put it in the oven and see what we get. And the same thing with Steve Wright. That's what we did in that album. We co-wrote everything, and I was very active with coming up with ideas. We would go into a rehearsal place and just take a little audio cassette, and put it in the room. And sometimes, he would have his guitar, and I have a drum set in there. And sometimes the thing would start with a drum groove. Here, put something to this, boom. You got that. Oh, I like that. Okay.
Mm.
Those are the way. There's no set way that you do it the same way every time. Because ideas come at different times of the night and day, and sometimes you're with that other person, sometimes you're not. So you just take what you have and embellish it to make it turn it into a song to begin with, and they don't all pass muster either.
Sure,
I had it, but now I forgot the half of the hook, and that's what I wanted. These are the things yeah, that songwriters, especially when you're working with somebody else, you've got to grab the good and get it on your note taker, that little tape machine, and then you can take that home with you and try different melodies and different lyrics. You know, I can do as long as I have chords to build a melody around. Well, I can do that. That's and I can do the chord thing, but it's nothing like a guy that that can play guitar or keyboards like Steve does and Bobby does, and it's really fun to take thin air
Mm.
and then pull some ideas out of it from the head and the heart. And the next thing you know, you have a song. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very collaborative process. So, was it like that in CCR? Was that same process, or was it just like, no, just we got our lyricist here, does the melodies, lyrics, and we all just come together after that?
Well, yeah, in CCR, we couldn't submit anything. It's John's deal,
All
and
him.
John used to be a singer and a songwriter and all of it, and he gave it up for John's voice, but not ever thinking that he wouldn't be able to sing a song. He was a true tenor and soft tenor like a Richie Valens,
Yeah.
and we did a
Uh,
lot of covers. He could have done it. John and I had a lot of arguments over that, over fighting with Tom, and Stu was involved in that too. But it was me more than anybody because I'm not a guitar player, and that gives me an edge. I could, made it easy for me to come up with the drum parts. John would come in and say, here's this, you play that. And then I would take it home, put it on my little multi-track machine and go, no, I can come up with something better than that.
mm.
And, but the other three guys are all guitar players. So when he tells them to do something, it's easier for them to digest it and do it. But I would always want to improve on the drum parts. Susie Q, for example, was a rockabilly song, and I never liked it.
So wanted to get away from rockabilly.
No, we were playing in the bars back then, and so that's 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night. And so you want to work on your material, so you want to stretch songs out, and you want to make the beats danceable because the economics of bars are you get if you're going to pay for a band, make sure that they understand that you want those people dancing because then they sweat and then they need a beer. Beer bought.
Sure.
There's your economics, bar economics. So I changed that beat with my right hand instead of going like this on the cymbal. I made it a quarter note. Boom, 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 boom. And the in between that leaves a lot of space. So I put the eighth notes.
Oh.
There with my right foot on the bass drum. So it created a back and forth, and it opened up the the track. So the guitars just really come out in that record. Same with Born on the Bayou. It's a quarter note song, and it just makes things better. Less is best. It gives that a space for the melody to work and some of the licks that were being played. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, yeah, it's very, very catchy, simple, and it really works as a whole.
yeah,
It really, really does. And having that collaborative process is just really amazing. Like some artists will talk about somebody like Elton John. I mean, he doesn't want to write lyrics, but he comes up with the melody, and
good.
it's nice to be able to divide that up.
Yeah, that's true, and that's kind of one of rules for me is the guy has to have hooks, guitar hooks, little hooks, or you can, you know, a guitar part like is black is black, and things like that nature, and then sometimes it's gray. So, but I have a fellow that I work with, or haven't in a while, but when I did my solo album, I wrote 4 songs with him on that album. And because he would come in and have a little guitar, just a lick, you know, a 2-bar lick, and then boom, I said, that's mine now. And I can, you know, I can put together something that works with that lick and take advantage of it. And a lot of times, instead of a vocal hook, a little guitar lick, and sometimes a keyboard lick. Bobby's pretty good on that, and you know, we just had an understanding of what we were trying to do, and it didn't matter if one guy wrote 3/4 of a song, but on the next one that gets flipped around. It all adds up to where it's a 50-50 deal. It's not. It was just like Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah.
Those guys, sometimes they wrote songs by themselves, but that was their writing mechanism, and that's how they did it.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, one of the best songwriting teams ever. That's for sure.
Oh,
But I like those kind of a track like Layla, which just has these different sections to it. It's like you could just tell, you know, a lot of it's a melange of ideas, and I just love how the layering of that.
yeah.
It's really beautiful. Coming back to California Gold, you recorded in San Francisco. Is was always called the Cosmos Factory?
That was actually in Berkeley, and it was always called Cosmo's Factory. I had a little gardener's shack in my backyard that this was before we had a hit, and we couldn't use Tom's garage anymore because the cops had been called many times, and the last time the cop came, he says, "If I come back again, you're going to jail." Okay, well, so I had this little gardener shack. It was maybe 12 feet by 6 feet. It was just we were just packed in there, and this guy's everybody smoked cigarettes in the band but me.
You got the secondhand smoke. That was
Yeah, but it was horrible in that little tight space.
Mm.
So like at one point, I took my sticks, threw them down on the floor, and I said, "God, you guys are killing me with your cigarettes." I opened the door and walked out and took some deep breaths. And Tom came out and said, "Yeah, but it's better than working in a factory somewhere." So my wife's an artist, and I took some of her oil paints. We got a little piece of trim wood, about it's a 1x4, and I wrote the factory on it, and I nailed it on the door. So when they came to rehearsal the next day, there it was. So when we got our headquarters, when we had a hit, we had real business, and we needed a place to rehearse and to do our business, and we got this place, a old wooden structure, and that's became Cosmos Factory.
That's awesome. Your nickname is what were the exact origins of that?
That came from my college days, and in college they called me Clifford C. Clifford. We were supposed to be a fraternity, but we weren't fraternity type guys. We were party type guys, and we had been kicked off campus, so there was no adult supervision, and everybody wanted to come to our parties because they were real parties. And anyway, we had an ant and roach problem because guys just took half their hamburger they didn't like, throw it in a corner. You have vermin living in there, and not a pretty thing. And I have a background in entomology, and so I knew I had studied colony insects, and that would be ants, wasps, uh,
Oh,
termites, and bees. And so we had two of them. We had the roaches and the ants, and they had put some pest control people in, and they could never get rid of the ants. Could never do it. And so I had a meeting, and I said, I can do it. I can get rid of it. And I'll need to get some poison. And then you could buy deadly poison in a hardware store by the gallon. So I did all my baiting, and worked it for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, and I told them it'll take 2 weeks. And they were gone. All of it was gone. I said, now you guys have to empty your garbage cans. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And so that worked. So anyway, we were at this party, and somebody yelled out, "Hey, Clifford, C. Clifford, what does the C stand for?" And before I could respond, the first hippie in the house said, "It stands for Cosmo. He's cosmic. He's a man of nature."
cool.
Like poop on the shoe.
Yeah.
Stu doesn't call me Doug, calls me Cos or Cosmo. Same with the guys in the band; they called me Cos or Cosmo. Um, so if it was a nickname that will be around my neck of the woods for the rest of my life. So I do like it. So that part's good.
It's funny how that just sticks like that too. So, what was life like in El Cerrito? What was it like back in the 60s? Must have been fascinating.
Least logical place, or at least likely place to have a Southern rock style music bathed in the blues, coming out of this little bedroom community. But that's where we all lived and went to school. And we started in the 8th grade as an instrumental trio. And then Tom came in. He was in a band, and he wanted to cut a demo and go to LA and try and get a record deal. His band didn't want to do it because they weren't getting paid. He was paying for everything. And there weren't going to be any chicks there. So they said they would rather work on their cars. That's a somewhat prototypical El Cerrito musician. And so we were able, though, to listen to real R&B radio. So I listened to a lot of black music by the old blues guys, Muddy Waters, and people like that. And so, and the real country stuff. There was a kind of a melting pot of people that came out during the war. There was a big shipyard there, and they needed people to run it because all the troops were in in the places they had gone to fight. So they needed a work base, and so people came from all over, and a lot of people came from the South. And once they got out and lived in California for a while, they didn't want to go back to the South. And and after the war, the shipyard was still there, so they had work, and so they brought their tools and their music, and that gave us a good foundation for the direction we were going in.
Wow. Well, it must have been just fascinating, just getting it all together and just growing up in those neck of the woods. Do you remember seeing the Beatles for the first time, like so many of your
Oh,
generation?
yeah. And that was a big shot in the arm for us because we had been together for about 6 years or so, and nothing had come from it. And maybe some airplay on a radio station for a day or two. But when we saw them on Ed Sullivan, they were playing American rock and roll better than the American rock and rollers. And and they had the same instrumentation that we did, three guitars and drums, and we just looked at him, and we looked at ourselves, and we said, if these guys from Liverpool can come in here and, you know, have #1 hits, we can do it too. We wanted it, and that gave us a big shot in the arm. And sure enough, we end up going back for our first trip to Europe, go into the Beatles' house and played the Royal Albert Hall, which is now a documentary on Creedence for your listeners out there. It's really good. It's really well done. It has our entire show from the Royal Albert Hall, plus three songs from Woodstock. And most people don't know that we played Woodstock, but we did. And then Oakland Coliseum, that was our backyard. That's where Elvis played, and that's where Elvis tipped his cap to us, knowing that we were there, and that was our backyard. That was one of the biggest thrills of my career, having Elvis. Here's how he did it. The people that did his tours did our tours as well, and they were like the top company to do it. They had 4 acts. They had Elvis Presley, they had Creedence Clearwater Revival, they had the Beach Boys, and Frank Sinatra. Those were their 4 acts they had. So Elvis was coming to our neck of the woods, and the fellow that we toured with, it was Concerts West was the name of the company. He said, Elvis wants to meet you guys. He's a big fan of yours. What? Elvis wants to meet us? Yeah. Oh yeah. So, you know, we go to the show, and that's when he was trim and wearing the white leather, and oh man, it was just so cool. And he had just finished a song, and then he comes up to the microphone and he says, I know they're out there. I know they're out there. This is for the Creedence Boys, 2, 3, 4, and he plays Proud Mary.
Wow. That's gotta, yeah, how that song's been covered.
I was bawling. I was just, yeah, I think all of us were.
It doesn't get any better.
Left the building before we could meet him.
Nice.
He gave us the tip of the hat and played our song. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wow. What a career. Gosh, that's definitely the pinnacle of all of that. But you know, some of our favorites you work with, I believe Steve Miller as well.
Steve Miller is one of my best friends. In fact, I
Oh,
just got an email from Steve. I sent him a copy of California Gold, and he just says, man, keep it up, buddy, as what he said. And he said, we need to communicate more. And so I'll be sending him an email later today.
oh wow. Just starting on Rockin' Me. That's, you had to know that's a hit. Like the minute that thing's like putting together, I mean, there must be that moment where like this is gonna just crack the top 5 easily.
Well, I have a story on that. I was over at his house, and I was going to go over to Nebworth Castle in England and play. He was his contract was up, so he put together a kind of a super band, 4-piece band, but super band to go market. And he says, you're not you guys aren't going to be in the band, but, you know, just say you're in the band, because we played one show, and that was the Nebworth Castle. So I'm at Steve's house, and Lonnie Taylor, his bass player, was going to join us, and then Les Dudek, lead guitarist, was going to play, and he didn't show up. So it was just Steve and I. We rehearsed 22 songs, just the 2 of us. And he says, I want to play my next single. You want to hear it? And I said, yeah. He says, tell me what you think. So he plays Rockin' Me Baby, and the tempo was up. Instead of this, it was, and so he played it for me. I said, what do you think? And I says, I think you need to slow that tempo. Now think about what you're doing here. You know, you're not rocking a baby.
Yeah.
You're rocking your baby, your lover. This is a sexy song, and so you need to slow that thing down. He says, yeah, thanks. So first time it was ever played in public was that show in England, and the tempo is the tempo I gave Steve to play that song, and so I know that song pretty well.
Oh gosh, yeah. The minute you hear that, it's just really incredible. It was like getting together with Stu Cook and getting together in the Don Harrison band.
Well, yeah, the Don Harrison band was not a professional. He it was bigger than he was, and he couldn't handle it. And every time we'd go out and play a gig, he'd lose his voice. That's really bad. We opened for the Rolling Stones at Knebworth, a different year, but we opened for him, and sure enough, in about the third song, Don's voice was gone, and then he's apologizing to the audience. That's the worst thing you can do. So I had a real stiff neck after playing that show because I had my head down.
Oh gosh, yeah, you just feel that. Oh, it's terrible.
And Don Harrison, but Russell DeShiel came out of that band, and he's my partner in this project, and some others as well, because he's aside from being a really good lead guitar player, he's very technically sound, and I am not. I know what these things can do, and I know what I want from them, but I just have to articulate that to Russell, and Russell will do the work. He's got the chops for the technical stuff. So he's on this record. He's the executive producer.
Nice, nice. Almost 30 years since you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What was that experience like? Just going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, it was pretty sad, actually.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know you never thought they would like make something like, this tribute to, rock and roll was not supposed to be so corporate, but yeah, here
well,
it is.
it did. John refused to play with us. So instead of playing with us, he played with Bruce Springsteen, Robbie Robertson, and
Hmm.
forget who the drummer was, one of the studio guys there. And it was one of the most insulting, insipid things and cheap things that there was only one guy being inducted and there were two of the guys that were being inducted weren't allowed to play.
Yeah,
So
it's just so political. The whole thing is can be just like, why isn't so and so in this? Why is this person in there? It just like it really creates all this tension.
yeah, well, there was some tension. It was real sad. We had our
Yeah.
families, our kids, and it just pulled the rug out from under you. That was vintage Fogerty at the time, and I'm hoping I think he's getting a little mellower these days. It doesn't seem to. If we communicate with him, it's through his lawyer. So
Wow. Wow. Well, hopefully things do get better. I mean, with age.
love letters become pretty expensive. But we did some during now plugging the Royal Albert Hall, and he did an interview, and it wasn't negative, so that's kind of a first, and so hopefully, we can just not have to have that hanging over our heads. I'm not saying I want to go play with him. I don't, but uh, I've got Parkinson's right now, and we had a band, Creedence Clearwater Revisited, Stu and I, 25 years. We just retired that 2 years ago, and so that's why I'm doing this. This is my label too, by the way, Cliff Song Records. So
Oh,
it'll be the first record company that I've been involved with that I won't have to audit.
very good. Good stuff in the vault. So I guess, is there a lot more in the vault that you can dig out?
There's more in there, and I'll just kind of keep that as a secret until it's time to come out.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like wasn't JD Salinger keeping a whole bunch of stuff in vault and stuff hasn't been released, but there's a whole bunch of gold out there, I'm sure. So really great release. I feel like there's a real Clapton-y track on there. It's one that that I know is called Always It's Always Darkest Before the Dawn. It just kind of
Oh yeah,
reminded me of that.
that's my opinion as a song. Uh, it's the best song that we did, and that was that's what I took the lyrical reins on that one. And excuse me, we've had fires around here in the
Oh
area.
gosh.
We had some rain, otherwise I would need two of these. But yeah, Darkest for the Dawn, I think, is the best song there, and it's played really, really well. It's a ballad, if you will, and the message is positive, but it's also a very true thing involved with it, because it might seem to be as bad as it's going to get, but that's anything that happens after that in a positive way is what that song's about. And it's always darkest for the dawn. That darkness will go away. You just have to hang in there,
Yeah,
weather the storm.
yeah. Wow. Well, hopefully out in your way, things will cool down. I know it's been a crazy hot summer. It's just seems like it's getting warmer every year. So hopefully things will be a little better for all of us. I'm over here in Atlanta, so things are hopefully cooling off. We're getting into autumn, so that's a little bit better. But I do wish you the best, and hopefully more stuff to come out of the vault.
Yeah, what I need is airplay.
Yeah.
Because when in these interviews, I talk to guys that I listened to it, and then I got myself going back and listened to it 3 times. They said it's like a new record, and Bobby's vocals are spot on. I mean, I think it's the best vocals he's ever done, and it's just pure rock and roll.
Yeah, yeah, you've known Bobby for a long time. He also worked with Todd Rundgren, I noticed. I was on listening to one of his projects. Bobby Whitlock's been everywhere. Just amazing. Really
Yeah.
huge talent.
Oh, terrific talent. And he did his best work, I think, on this record, and it was a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, I urge people go out there, get this. This is a really amazing release. Great songs, rolling on. You got some really groovy stuff here.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Turn the
wow.
beat around.
Turn the beat. I just like, yeah, it is. It's fresh. It's timeless. It's not
Yeah,
something
my mama
that's
told
retro.
me.
Yeah, very, very well done. Well, I really appreciate your time and best wishes in all your future endeavors.
Oh, thanks, Robert.
Take care. Have a good one.
You do the same.
Sure. Bye bye.
Bye bye.